What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the 2025 Chicago Bears running back room after they added Kyle Monangai in the 2025 NFL Draft. And like I said, guys, today is going to be all about Kyle Monangai, running back out of Rutgers. Bears added him in the 7th round with pick number 233 in this year's draft class, and added a very intriguing running back to a running back room that people saw a lot of issues with going into the draft, and people really wanted to see a running back being drafted. And I think a lot of guys expected a running back earlier than the 7th round, but Kyle Monangai it is, and I dug into his tape finally now after the draft, and I'm ready to talk about what he's going to bring to the Chicago Bears. And I think he's a very intriguing player that I think, even though he's a 7th round pick, could have a pretty big impact in 2025 already for Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears offense. But before we want to get into the scouting study for Kyle Monangai, let's talk about the Bears running back room overall. We got running back one still, in my opinion, DeAndre Swift. I know some people struggled with him, me included. I think there's a couple of times he missed gaps and was not the running back we expected him to be, but at the end of the day, he was still pretty productive with a very bad interior offensive line for the Chicago Bears. And I think Ben Johnson, if anyone, is the guy to get him back on track. And with a new interior offensive line rotation and 3 guys that can really move people at the line of scrimmage, I think DeAndre Swift is going to have a big year for the Chicago Bears as running back one. If the Bears don't add, obviously, someone else in free agency, because there's still some intriguing options out there. And then we have the running back spot number 2 right now, as of right now, behind Swift, which could be Roschon Johnson, which could be Kyle Monangai. I think he's in that discussion definitely after today's tape study. And then, as I said, potentially a free agent that the Bears are looking out for potentially as of right now as well. So there's a couple of options, but let's talk about Monangai and get into the draft tape study. What did I see out of him? What with his Rutgers tape, and what he can add potentially to the Chicago Bears offense. And I think the biggest thing that I want to start off with is his big plus, which is power and contact balance. If you start watching Kyle Monangai's tape at Rutgers, power is the first thing that pops off of tape. He's an excellent downhill runner between the tackles, but also outside the tackles on wide zones, and has great contact balance. So wherever there's a guy, he's going to bounce off of him and keeps his stride and keeps running. He's a very low pad level. Now, he's 5'8", 211, so he already has a lower pad level naturally, which is great. But as I said, he's also a very low runner, so he even lowers the shoulders and runs low anyways, and tacklers just bounce off of him all the time. He's not afraid to use the momentum and run over a guy and still keep his balance, and his feet never stop. So if he's ever engaged or stuck a little bit in traffic, he keeps moving his feet and just keeps running and never quits on a play, which I absolutely loved to see on tape. Now, another thing I really like with him, which is going to be very important in the NFL, is patience and vision. Talking about DeAndre Swift lacking that vision at certain points in 2024 for the Bears, I think Kyle Monangai displayed great vision with patience to the gap and really let the play develop in front of him, let the blockers develop, and get the O-line to work, and then find his gap, what he liked, and then exploded through that gap. He finds the cutback lane consistently on tape, which is great. If the first read is not there, there's probably going to be an over pursuit by the defensive line, and he often found the cutback lane that he then hit. And he grew up talking about patience and vision with the wide zone system. Ben Johnson is known for doing basically everything, but he's also a guy that utilizes zone. And Kyle Monangai in 2024 had 202 snaps where Rutgers was running an outside zone or zone run scheme overall with him versus 53 gap scheme runs. And those 202 snaps were second in FBS football overall. So that's pretty impressive. So he's a veteran with the zone run scheme and ran a lot of wide zone. It's going to be great with the Chicago Bears because we have a very athletic offensive line that can move the pocket and move the lean line, and he's going to thrive off of that, running behind that. Then another big plus for me personally is his explosiveness. I think that's where the scouting reports go a little bit in different ways for some people, but to me, he displayed really good explosiveness out of the gap and really good quickness overall in the first 10 to 15 yards of the football field of a run. So, like I said, to me, a very explosive running back through the gap and very patient to the gap, which is obviously great, letting stuff develop and then just explode through the gap, which is going to catch defenders off guard. You saw that in the Big Ten. Multiple defenders were playing it slower with him, and then he just exploded and blew past them, which is very good to see. And also a big point is a very good one-cut back. So if there's any defender in the area, he can one-cut and just run away from him in certain situations with some flashes of making guys miss in the open field too. I think he's a very elusive runner, which you probably wouldn't expect for a 7th round pick, having power and elusiveness, but we'll talk about his cons later on in today's video. But there's multiple times where he made guys miss and got some additional yards by either running through a guy or just juking past him and being quick with his feet. And then lastly, one big plus for me personally was his pass protection. Very good eyes to identify the rush, blocking inside out most of the time, but he found the open guy that was coming through and then just gets low and destroys the initial charge of that defender and picked him up. So that was very positive on tape as well. Now for his question marks and cons that I saw on tape. First of all, the pass game to me is not a con. It's more of a question mark to me. I think the Rutgers offense didn't really feature him at all as a receiver. I think he had only 17 targets in 2024 and a little over 70 yards receiving. So he doesn't have really the production on paper, but when you watch him on the tape, he ran some really good routes. We're talking about wheel routes, out routes, shoot routes into the flats, stick routes, or spot routes where he sat over the middle as a check down. And the quarterback just simply didn't find him for a lot of times and scrambled and just didn't get to his check down, which was unfortunate for Monangai's production as a receiver. But when he got the football, he had pretty natural hands. It didn't look off with him. So I think as a receiver, he has a lot of potential. He just wasn't used at Rutgers as that type of a player, which is unfortunate because I think he's very talented. And as I said, his route running and the way he was moving in open space, trying to get open, looked pretty good. So that's getting me really excited about Kyle Monangai's receiving ability as a 3rd down back in the NFL. And then one big minus is obviously the long speed. When you watch Monangai, he's not going to outrun you deeper down the field. I think, like I said, his initial quickness through the gap and for the first 10-15 yards is very good, but the long speed is not there. He ran a 4.6 at the combine, and it definitely shows on tape too. He's not going to be the fastest on the field, but he doesn't have to. That's why we got DeAndre Swift to break away on bigger runs, but he can be a back that can really get some hard-earned yards in the first couple of yards, first 10 yards, and just make the defense tired. And then one last con can be said about his length overall as a blocker. He has shorter arms. So with the NFL having better and longer and taller athletes, it's going to be a little bit tougher to block them. But like I said, he did a pretty good job at Rutgers, and I think you cannot be much worse than DeAndre Swift in pass protection. So I trust Kyle Monangai to get that job done. So for the conclusion of Kyle Monangai, 7th round pick for the Chicago Bears, I think first of all it's a great addition to the Chicago Bears, especially in the 7th round. It was a very deep running back draft class, and Kyle Monangai was a very good prospect in my opinion in this year's draft. Super productive in college, showed a lot of great things to be an early down back, but also a 3rd down back in the NFL early on. To me, he's a upside running back too for the Chicago Bears at the moment for 3rd down protection and goal line runs. He can definitely keep his legs running and churning and then get into the end zone with his power. But I think he should not be limited to 3rd down reps. He can also be an early down back for the Chicago Bears, like Ben Johnson had in 2022 with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. He can be our Jamal Williams light. Just get the couple of tough earned yards early on and then have DeAndre Swift have that breakaway run to the goal line, and then let's get Kyle Monangai in the end zone with his power. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And like I said, he can be a early on complimentary back for DeAndre Swift. I really think he's already ready for that, as he still has to show a couple of things in training camp. But I think he's an excellent pickup by the Bears in the 7th round that can compete for that running back 2 spot if the Chicago Bears do not add a bigger, better back in free agency this year. But I think with Monangai and the revamped offensive line, it will be a great running back 2/running back 3 if some free agents get added. And I'm really excited what Kyle Monangai is going to do for the Chicago Bears moving forward. And with that being said, guys, that's the end of today's episode. I really hope you've enjoyed it. So much fun digging into Kyle Monangai's tape, and I really recommend you guys doing the same. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Definitely let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of Kyle Monangai as a 7th round pick for the Chicago Bears? Stay patient for the next couple of videos that are coming up. Cool draft content or post-draft content and off-season content for the Bears is being planned. And as always, guys, bear down.